A new report says the George W. Bush White House broke the law repeatedly. They brazenly used tax dollars to try and get Republicans elected. The Office of Special Counsel just released the results of a 3-year investigation into President Bush's Office of Political Affairs. Yeah, that would be the one run by Karl Rove. The report found that in the run-up to the 2006 midterms, Republican political operatives actually moved into the White House and worked with the political office's staff to coordinate the campaign. They're, of course, not allowed to do that. Then they used federal tax dollars to send members of the administration to the battleground districts. Political appointees participated in a whopping 183 events with Republican candidates in the 3 months before the 2006 election. And finally, they held mandatory briefings on election strategy for Republican appointees who were supposed to be serving the American people in their roles as our government agents. All of it is in direct violation of the Hatch Act, which is a 1939 law prohibiting most federal employees from engaging in partisan political activity and bans using federal money to pay for political activities. But here's the kicker. Because the Bush administration is no longer in office, the Office of Special Counsel can no longer file charges. It's up to the Justice Department, and so far they're not commenting. But I can already guess their response. Oh, we don't look backward, we only look forward, which is the standard Obama strategy, which makes you wonder if anybody could be busted for a crime, since they're all committed in the past. Now, if you robbed a bank, do you think prosecutors would look backward? My guess is yes, but then you're not a Bush official. Joining me now is Jeffrey Rosen, a law professor at George Washington University. All right, Professor Rosen, first, how serious is this, and what are some of the damaging details?
Well, it's very serious. This is a 3-year investigation, and it found that there were just repeated violations of this law, the Hatch Act. 75 briefings held between 2001 and 2007, and the details are really amazing. As you said, the White House Counsel Office actually warned the Bush White House to stop holding these briefings during working hours before 5 p.m. They said at least do it after hours. But the White House just ignored those requests, continued to hold the meetings, sent officials from the Veterans Department, from the Health and Human Services Department, all of these political appointees out to stump for Republican candidates and to try to raise money for them and to increase the turn out the vote initiatives, all leading up to the crucial 2006 election where Democrats took both houses. So it really was a serious and systematic violation, and this report is quite damning in the details.
Right, and I want the audience to understand, look, the people at the Veterans Department are supposed to work for the veterans. They're not supposed to work for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. And I just want to give you a list real quick, Professor, of the departments that were involved. Well, we only have the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Department of Transportation, the Department of the Interior, Office of the National Drug Control Policy, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health and Human Services, Small Business Administration, and the Department of Energy. Whew. Did they leave any out? Okay.
It is amazing. That list jumped out at me, too. And as you suggest, many of these people are civil service employees of those departments that are supposed to be non-political. And the whole purpose of this Hatch Act, that 1939 law you mentioned, was to prevent people in government from shaking down citizens for contributions and for allowing any federal dollars to go for partisan political activities. So it's just a systematic and repeated breach. As a result of this, Henry Waxman said a while ago that this office, the Office of Political Affairs that Karl Rove headed, should be shut down. And coincidentally or not, the Obama administration just recently, right before this report came out, announced its intention to shut down the office on its own and to move its functions over the Democratic National Committee. So we face this incredible situation where the Democrats are now shuttering up the office, but as you began by suggesting, there may be no clear legal remedy for the Republican violations.
Yeah, and by the way, I follow politics, Professor Rosen. Believe me, it was not a coincidence. Okay,
now, I'm sure you're right.
But that goes to that same point.
Yeah.
But that goes to that same point. Look, the Republicans abuse the law, and then when the Democrats get in power, they say, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did that." They don't do it anymore, but they don't prosecute, right? And so, one, do you think the Justice Department will follow up on this at all? And if they don't, does that send the message that if you're a Republican administration, don't worry, the Democrats are always going to let you off the hook? It's not really against the law; it's just a difference of opinion.
Well, it's slightly complicated by the peculiarities of this law. The general remedy for violations is for this Office of Professional Responsibility to kick you out of office. Obviously, that can't happen anymore. Second, there's a requirement that the Office of Special Counsel, which wrote the report, make a referral to the Justice Department asking for a criminal prosecution. And in this case, the office did not do that. So the Justice Department isn't completely free to initiate the prosecution on its own. Does that mean that there's no remedy at all? I mean, at the very least, people could demand that the Republican National Committee reimburse taxpayers for the illegally spent money that they weren't supposed to have used on these supposed political trips that were packaged as business trips. So the Democrats in Congress could certainly ramp up the political pressure, even if the Justice Department decides not to prosecute.
All right, look, when you break the law, I'd prefer that you go to prison. But if it means getting some of the money back for the American people, hey, Professor Rosen, I'll take your deal. All right, you win. You win.
Sounds good.
Okay, and thank you for being on.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it. At least it's an idea to get something back, right?
You got to do what you can.
Right,
The law is the law. Good stuff.